Karma is the only debt collector that doesn't knock. It breaks in. It doesn't care if you're ready, it doesn't care if you've changed your address, and it definitely doesn't care if you've convinced yourself you've moved on. In fact, research in behavioral psychology shows that humans are hardwired to underestimate the long-term impact of their actions. That's why karma feels so surgical when it arrives, because while you were busy forgetting, it was busy documenting. And here's the scary part: karma doesn't work on our timeline. It can wait months, years, even decades, all while you think you've gotten away with it. Then, like an old subscription you forgot to cancel, it charges your life in full with interest. The universe has a way of giving you the same medicine you once dished out, except the dosage is much higher and there's no way to spit it out. Now, don't mistake this for some mystical bedtime story. The patterns are real, the receipts are detailed, and the delivery is ruthless. People have lost empires over one selfish decision. Families have fallen apart over one quiet betrayal. And friendships have turned into battlefields over one careless act that seemed harmless at the time. But here's the plot twist. Karma has a sense of humor. Sometimes it doesn't just punish you, it does it in a way that makes everyone else laugh while you stand there wondering how your master plan turned into a public blooper reel. So stay with me. Because once you hear the kind of karmic payback we're about to uncover, you might start looking at your past actions like a detective reviewing cold case files. And trust me, some of you are about to realize the universe has been watching everything. Number 1, consequences arrive uninvited. Consequences don't wait for your permission. They don't send a polite warning, they don't ask if you're ready, and they certainly don't check your calendar to see if this is a convenient week for you. They show up on their own terms, uninvited, and often at the most inconvenient point in your life. That's the ruthless efficiency of karma. It doesn't need your awareness to operate. While you've moved on and forgotten the details, the impact of what you did is still very much alive in someone else's world, quietly gathering weight until it finds its way back to you. The reason it feels so shocking when it hits is because people are masters at compartmentalizing. You tell yourself something is over because you've stopped thinking about it. But karma doesn't work on memory, it works on energy. The ripple you set in motion when you acted, spoke, or decided against someone's best interest doesn't disappear just because you've convinced yourself it's buried. It's still out there, moving, shifting, and eventually circling back with precision. And it's rarely about punishing you in the exact same way you hurt someone else. Sometimes it's far more creative than that. It will find the weak points you didn't even realize you had and press on them until you feel the same helplessness you once caused. It can arrive disguised as a random setback, a betrayal you didn't see coming, or a series of bad luck moments that all seem unrelated until you trace them back and see the undeniable thread. What makes this so unnerving is that you can't prepare for it. You can't guard every door, you can't control every outcome, and you can't outsmart a force that's not operating on your schedule. Karma's timing is its weapon. It waits for the moment when you're comfortable, confident, and convinced that life is in your control. And then it delivers the reminder that control was never yours to begin with. The worst part? It doesn't just take you by surprise. It takes away your ability to explain it. You're left trying to figure out why everything is suddenly going wrong, while deep down, there's a quiet part of you that already knows the answer. That's when the lesson lands. Not in the chaos itself, but in the clarity that follows it. Consequences don't arrive when you're ready, they arrive when they're ready. And by then, they're already inside. Number 2, the universe mirrors brutally. The universe doesn't just give you back what you put out. It hands it to you like a mirror, showing you exactly what you've done, only bigger and clearer. It's not always about punishment, it's about exposure. The same patterns, attitudes, and choices you project onto others eventually come back to you amplified, so you can finally see what you've been avoiding. And the unsettling part is you might not recognize it at first. It can arrive in a completely different form, wearing a disguise that only makes sense once you've already been through it. When you treat someone with carelessness, dismiss their feelings, or take advantage of their trust, it might seem small in the moment. But the universe works with precision, not emotion. It doesn't forget. It's like it takes a snapshot of your behavior and files it away until the right conditions appear to give you the same experience from the other side. That's why the impact feels so sharp. It's personal, because it's tailored to you. The situation will often be crafted in such a way that it presses on your deepest values, the ones you didn't think were vulnerable. And it's rarely a simple, direct swap. If you broke someone's trust, you might not just be betrayed in return. You might be betrayed by the one person you thought never could. If you disregarded someone's effort, you might later find yourself working tirelessly for someone who doesn't even notice. The universe magnifies the lesson so you can't miss it. It's not cruelty, it's correction. The mirror effect is what makes karma impossible to outrun. You can change jobs, cities, relationships, but if the lesson hasn't been learned, it follows you. You might think you've left the past behind, but it's there, shaping the present in ways you can't always connect. And when it does finally reflect back, it doesn't just bring the memory, it brings the weight of everything you ignored. That's why it feels so brutal. It's not only the situation that hurts, it's the undeniable recognition of yourself in it. You see your own past behavior through someone else's actions, and there's no way to pretend it's random. The universe mirrors you not to humiliate you, but to make sure you finally understand the reality you once created for someone else. And when you see it that clearly, denial is no longer an option. Number 3, lessons can be painful but precise. Karma doesn't waste time sending you vague hints. When it decides to teach you a lesson, it does it with the kind of precision that leaves no room for misunderstanding. It's not about being cruel, it's about being exact. Every consequence is calculated to match the core of the choice you made, not just the surface action. That's why it feels so direct, like it was designed specifically for you. In a way it is. What makes these lessons so piercing is that they hit the part of you that can't hide. They don't land in areas you're prepared to defend. They strike where your guard is down, in the places you don't expect to be tested. You might think you're just dealing with a rough patch or a random hardship, but if you pay close attention, there's a thread connecting it to something you once did, a decision you once made, or a truth you once ignored. The universe has a way of recreating the very dynamic you created for someone else and placing you on the receiving end so you can finally feel the full weight of it. These moments strip away your ability to pretend. You can't argue with them because deep down they make sense. Even if you try to push the thought away, there's an uncomfortable awareness that you've been here before, just on the other side of the equation. And in that awareness is the real purpose: clarity. Karma's lessons aren't designed to destroy you. They're designed to wake you up to the ripple effects of your choices, so you stop repeating them. The harshness comes from the fact that there's no escape hatch. Once the lesson starts, you can't fast forward it, and you can't negotiate your way out. You have to sit in it, feel it, and understand it. That's what makes it different from ordinary problems. It has a target, and that target is your blind spot, the same blind spot that allowed you to act without considering the cost in the first place. When the lesson is finally understood, it's like something shifts permanently. You see people differently, you measure your actions differently, and you realize that what felt small in the moment was actually the start of something much bigger. Karma's precision ensures you never forget it again. That's why its lessons last a lifetime. Number 4, silence can speak louder than any revenge. When karma decides it's time to correct a situation, it doesn't always come with drama, explosions, or obvious payback. Sometimes the most devastating thing it does is simply step back and let life unfold without its usual shield over you. That quiet withdrawal is more powerful than any direct attack, because it exposes just how much unseen protection you were living under without even realizing it. You start to notice the little things going wrong, the favors that used to come easily now falling through, the opportunities that once seemed to find you disappearing without explanation, the sense of safety you once carried replaced by a constant unease. It's not that the universe suddenly hates you, it's that it's no longer interfering on your behalf. And in that silence, you feel the weight of your own choices. Without that invisible cover, every crack in your life is exposed. People you thought would stand by you quietly step away. Problems you used to dodge now find you directly. Even your confidence feels different, as if the ground beneath you has subtly shifted and you're not sure where the next step will land. The absence of protection has a way of making you look at yourself with new honesty. You realize how much of your strength was supported by forces you couldn't see. Goodwill, trust, and unseen blessings that were woven into your life. When those threads are removed, you're left with a stripped-down version of reality. And for many, that's a more painful punishment than any public humiliation or act of revenge could ever be. What makes this form of karma so piercing is that there's no one to argue with, no scene to replay, and no enemy to point to. The silence itself becomes the message. It forces you to stop running, stop distracting yourself, and actually face the gap between the life you had and the life you've now created. In that emptiness, the universe isn't just punishing you. It's giving you space to realize the full cost of your actions. It's a mirror without distortion, and the reflection isn't always easy to look at. But if you pay attention, that silence can become the most powerful teacher you've ever had. Once you understand it, you'll never mistake protection for entitlement again. Number 5, what you ignore finds you. The things you push aside don't just disappear. They change shape, grow in silence, and wait for the right moment to resurface. Whether it's a debt you avoided, a truth you buried, or a betrayal you pretended didn't happen, it doesn't dissolve with time, it matures. And when it comes back, it's rarely in the same form you left it. It might arrive as a financial crisis, a relationship collapse, a loss of trust, or a sudden obstacle that feels completely unrelated until you trace its roots and see the connection you've been avoiding all along. Ignored wrongs have a way of gathering interest. A lie you told might lead to another lie to cover it, until the whole structure collapses under its own weight. A betrayal you committed might feel forgotten by the other person, but the universe doesn't work on forgiveness alone. It works on balance. The imbalance you created is still out there, waiting to be leveled. That's why when it returns, it often feels heavier and more complicated than it was in the beginning. You're not just dealing with the original problem anymore. You're dealing with everything it became while you were pretending it didn't exist. This is the trap people fall into when they mistake silence for resolution. Just because no one's bringing it up doesn't mean it's gone. Energy doesn't vanish, it transforms. Every ignored action becomes a seed, and left unchecked, it grows into something that eventually finds you. The timing is almost always inconvenient, hitting when you have the least resources, the least energy, or the least ability to handle it. That's part of the lesson. It forces you to confront what you once had the power to address more easily, but chose not to. What makes this so ruthless is that you can't prepare for the form it will take. The lie might not come back as someone calling you out. It might come back as someone lying to you in the exact way you once did. The betrayal might not return through the same person. It might arrive through someone you trusted even more. By the time you recognize it, you're deep in it, and the only way out is through. The truth is, nothing stays buried forever. Every debt seeks repayment, every wrong seeks balance. And the longer you run from it, the more determined it becomes to find you, not to destroy you, but to make sure you face the reality you try to escape. Number 6, no one escapes the ripples. Every action you take sends something out into the world, a word, a decision, a choice. And it doesn't just vanish once it leaves you. It travels, touching people and situations you may never see, creating a chain of effects you can't fully predict. That's why even the things you think are small aren't harmless. They may feel insignificant in the moment, but they set something in motion, and what's set in motion always comes back in some form. You might dismiss a careless comment as nothing, but it can stick with someone, shape their mood, and alter the way they treat others that day. That ripple moves outward, hitting people you don't even know, until it circles back to you in a way that seems completely disconnected, until you realize the thread that started it. Likewise, a seemingly harmless shortcut, a moment of selfishness, or a decision made for convenience over integrity can grow far beyond its original size. By the time it returns, it's often multiplied, carrying with it the weight of everything it touched along the way. This is why karma is rarely instant. Ripples take time to travel. They expand, they combine with other waves, and they gather strength. When they finally return to your shore, they may look nothing like the original pebble you dropped in the water, but the energy is the same, and it recognizes you. That's why people are often blindsided when consequences arrive. They've forgotten the action that started it, but the universe hasn't. The unnerving part is that you don't get to control which ripples return first. The kindness you gave away without thinking might come back to you in a moment of need, saving you from something far worse. The harm you caused without much thought might come back when you're least equipped to handle it. There's no filter, no negotiation, only the natural return of what you've sent out. This truth strips away the illusion of getting away with something. You never really escape it. You just haven't felt the wave hit yet. And when it does, you'll know it's not random. It's the multiplied echo of your own actions, proving that nothing in this world truly disappears. It only circles back, bigger and clearer than before. Number 7. Humility isn't optional, it's survival. Pride has a way of making you feel untouchable. It convinces you that you're above certain consequences, that your intelligence, status, or resources can shield you from the fallout of your actions. Arrogance goes a step further. It blinds you to the warning signs completely. You don't just miss the red flags, you dismiss them as irrelevant, believing you'll always find a way around whatever's coming. That's exactly why karma goes for pride first. It strips away the illusion before it deals with the lesson, because as long as you think you're immune, you'll never truly see what's unfolding. When arrogance takes hold, even direct lessons can bounce right off. You might be in the middle of losing something important, yet your pride reframes it as an attack, an unfair judgment, or someone else's fault. That mindset blocks understanding and delays growth, which means the consequences have to keep escalating until they pierce the armor you've built around yourself. Karma doesn't punish for the sake of cruelty. It punishes pride because pride keeps you deaf to reality. The dangerous part is that pride feels like strength. It can make you believe you're handling life well, even while the ground beneath you is crumbling. It makes you reject help when you need it most, alienate people who could guide you, and overestimate your ability to control a situation. The universe, however, isn't impressed by your self-image. It will dismantle whatever false security you've built, often in the exact areas where you've been boasting the loudest. Humility, on the other hand, keeps you aware. It keeps you listening when others speak, open to correction and alert to the subtle ways life warns you before the impact hits. It's not about thinking less of yourself. It's about seeing yourself clearly without the distortion of ego. When you approach life with humility, you can recognize when a lesson is forming and adjust before it turns into a full-blown collapse. In the end, pride may feel powerful, but it's fragile. All it takes is one well-aimed consequence to shatter it. Humility, though, is built to survive. It bends when needed, learns quickly, and stays connected to reality. And in the realm of karma, staying connected to reality is the only way to survive the lessons that come for everyone, no matter who they think they are. Number 8. The pain you cause becomes your shadow. Every time you hurt someone, you leave more than just an emotional mark on them. You leave an imprint on yourself. It's like a blueprint is created in that moment, a record of the exact way you were able to cause pain. The universe holds onto that blueprint, and over time, it uses it to shape the lessons you'll have to face. That's why when karma comes, the pain often feels eerily familiar. It doesn't just hit you in any random way. It strikes in the same spot you once struck someone else. This isn't about revenge. It's about understanding. When you're on the giving end of hurt, it's easy to underestimate the depth of the wound you caused. You might rationalize it, tell yourself it wasn't that bad, or believe the other person will simply get over it. But when you're forced to feel that same kind of pain, the perception changes instantly. What once felt small from your side feels sharp and consuming when it's mirrored back to you. Karma's precision in this is almost unsettling. If you exploited someone's trust, your own trust will be tested, not in some vague, distant way, but in a situation that matters deeply to you. If you dismiss someone's feelings, you'll find yourself in a place where your feelings are brushed aside at the exact moment you most need them to be understood. The design isn't accidental, it's deliberate, because the only way to truly grasp the weight of the hurt you caused is to carry it yourself. The shadow effect of pain is that it never fully leaves until it's been balanced. You may go years without thinking about what you did, but the blueprint is still there, waiting. And when the timing is right, the universe pulls it out and aligns it with the exact vulnerability you didn't know you had. That's when the lesson cuts the deepest. Because it's no longer theoretical, it's personal. This is why empathy becomes more than just a virtue. It's a form of protection. When you understand the damage you could cause before you cause it, You break the cycle before it ever begins. But if you ignore it, the hurt you sent out becomes a shadow you can't outrun. It will follow you, grow with you, and one day step into the light to show you exactly where it came from. Number 9. Timing is karma's weapon. Karma doesn't rush. It's not in a hurry to balance the scales, because it knows that timing can make the lesson far more powerful than speed ever could. The universe has a way of sitting back, watching events unfold, and letting you believe you've gotten away with something. It lets you get comfortable, confident, and maybe even arrogant. It waits until you've built your life on the assumption that the consequences will never come. And then just when your guard is down, it delivers them. This delayed strike is what makes karma so unnerving. Immediate consequences are easier to face. They're raw but clear. You connect the cause and effect instantly, and while it may hurt, it's easier to process. But when karma takes its time, the link between your actions and the fallout isn't always obvious at first. You might be years removed from the decision that set everything in motion. You've moved on, forgotten the details, maybe even changed as a person. But the energy from that action never vanished. It's been circling, aligning with circumstances and waiting for the exact moment when its impact will be undeniable. The precision comes in how it chooses the weakest point in your defenses. That could be a financial collapse right after you've taken a big risk, a betrayal at the height of your trust, or a personal loss at a moment when your emotional reserves are already drained. The hit feels heavier because you're not in a position to fight back the way you might have before. Karma doesn't just want you to notice. It wants you to feel the full depth of the lesson without distraction or escape. This is why people often describe karmic payback as the perfect storm. It's not chaos, it's choreography. The pieces are arranged so that the timing amplifies the effect, ensuring you can't brush it off as coincidence or bad luck. It's deliberate, almost surgical. And the hardest part? By the time it strikes, you're often in the middle of something you care about deeply, which means the cost is higher and the loss cuts deeper. That's how timing becomes karma's most dangerous weapon, not because it's fast, but because it's patient. And patience in the hands of the universe is devastating. Number 10, lessons are invisible until they hit. It's easy to believe you understand life's lessons when you're observing them from a safe distance. You can watch someone else face consequences and think, I get it, I'd never let that happen to me. You can even convince yourself that you've learned from your own past mistakes without actually confronting the full truth of them. That's the trap. The belief that awareness and experience are the same thing. They're not. True understanding often doesn't arrive until the moment karma hits, and by then, denial has no room to hide. Before that moment, you can rationalize anything. You can tell yourself you had good reasons for what you did, that circumstances forced your hand, or that someone else's reaction was exaggerated. You can bury the discomfort under busyness, distractions, or the passage of time. But when the lesson finally shows up, tailored precisely to your blind spots, it cuts through every excuse you've built. It leaves no space for the justifications you've been clinging to. What makes these lessons so jarring is their ability to strip away all the layers you've used to protect yourself from reality. The situation you face will feel unshakably personal, as if it's been designed to show you the exact truth you've been avoiding. It might not look like the original harm you caused, but it will evoke the same feelings in you that your actions once created in someone else. That emotional mirror is impossible to ignore. And here's the thing, the lesson doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Readiness is irrelevant. Karma moves when the moment is right for the truth to land with full force, even if you've been doing everything possible to delay it. Sometimes it arrives in the middle of your highest achievements, sometimes during your lowest moments, but the effect is the same. The light switches on and you can't turn it off. This is why karmic clarity can feel both painful and freeing. Painful because it exposes the exact role you played in creating your own storm. Freeing because once you see the truth without distortion, you have the power to change it. Until then, the lesson remains invisible, silent, patient, and inevitable. And when it finally arrives, there's no mistaking it. The clarity isn't optional, it's the whole point. Number 11. Justice is often invisible, yet inescapable. Justice in the hands of the universe doesn't always look like the stories we tell ourselves. It's rarely neat, obvious, or dramatic. In fact, it often moves quietly behind the scenes without any public recognition. You might be waiting for a big reveal, a satisfying confrontation, or an apology that never comes, but that's human justice. Universal justice plays a different game. It doesn't care if you witness it. It only cares that balance is restored. Because it's often invisible, it's easy to think nothing is happening. You may watch someone who wronged you continue to succeed, smile, and seemingly thrive, and you start to believe they've escaped accountability. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Justice can take the form of opportunities slipping away quietly, relationships souring in private, or internal battles no one talks about. The surface may look calm, but underneath the current is shifting. Sometimes the reason it doesn't look like justice is because the outcome doesn't match your idea of what should happen. You might think someone deserves public humiliation, but the universe might give them isolation instead. You might want them to lose everything, but instead they gain something hollow that looks like success while leaving them emotionally empty. The form doesn't matter, the precision does. Karma always finds the most fitting way to deliver the exact weight of what was given. And here's the part people often miss. Justice isn't meant for your entertainment. It's not a performance for the wrong to watch and celebrate. It's an energy correction, and sometimes you'll never be granted the satisfaction of seeing it happen. But whether you witness it or not, it's still inevitable. The law of balance doesn't skip anyone. That's why patience is essential. The absence of visible justice isn't proof of its absence, it's proof of its discretion. The universe doesn't operate on a stage. It works in precision, in timing, and in ways that can't always be measured by human eyes. And when the moment comes, it won't miss. Justice may be invisible, but it is never absent. And it always lands exactly where it's meant to, with or without an audience. Number 12, fear is not the lesson, awareness is. The part of karma that hits the hardest isn't the punishment itself. It's the moment you realize how unaware you were all along. Fear is temporary. It spikes, shakes you, and fades. Awareness is permanent. It doesn't just make you flinch, it forces you to look at yourself honestly, to see the consequences of your actions with clarity you didn't have before. That's why fear alone isn't the lesson, it's the awareness that lingers, the understanding that you were the cause of your own downfall or that your choices affected others far more than you ever imagined. When the truth hits, it feels sharper than any external blow. You may have thought your actions were harmless, justified, or insignificant, but the universe doesn't measure by intent, it measures by effect. And suddenly you see how much harm, disruption, or pain was tied directly to your choices. That revelation is disorienting because it exposes blind spots you didn't know existed. It's unsettling, not because of what happened to you, but because of how oblivious you were while it happened. This is what makes awareness the real lesson. Fear fades with time, but understanding your own role in the chain of events changes you forever. It forces introspection, humility, and a re-evaluation of how you interact with the world. The scarier part isn't the immediate consequence. It's the undeniable reflection staring back at you, showing exactly where you failed to see, to consider, or to care. Awareness also creates accountability in ways that fear never can. When you're truly aware, you recognize patterns, understand the ripple effects of your actions, and gain the ability to change your behavior before another consequence arrives. Fear alone may push you to react in the moment, but awareness pushes you to grow, to evolve, and to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Karma's purpose isn't to terrify, it's to illuminate. The fear it creates is temporary, but the awareness it demands is permanent. And once you see the impact of your actions clearly, you can no longer hide behind excuses, rationalizations, or denial. That clarity is the true lesson, and it's far more powerful than fear could ever be. Number 13. Repetition signals ignored truths. Life has a way of hitting you with the same lesson over and over until you finally pay attention. When the same challenge keeps appearing, it's rarely a coincidence or bad luck. It's a signal that something you've ignored or refused to face is demanding acknowledgement. Karma doesn't give up easily. If a mistake, a pattern, or a behavior has gone uncorrected, it will keep coming back in different forms until you understand it fully. The repetition isn't random, the universe has a method and it's persistent. You might notice the same type of toxic relationship, the same financial obstacle, or the same personal failure repeating in cycles. Each time it arises, it's slightly different, testing you from another angle, offering another chance to recognize the truth you've been avoiding. If you bypass it again, the next iteration usually comes heavier, more precise, and harder to ignore. The frustrating part is that the recurrence often feels external, as if life itself is conspiring against you. You may blame circumstances, other people, or sheer misfortune, but the pattern always traces back to your choices, your behaviors, or your refusal to face certain realities about yourself. Karma is relentless in this way. It doesn't allow lessons to be skipped or ignored. It just reshapes them until you pay attention. What makes repetition so powerful is that it forces awareness. Once you finally notice the connection between each iteration, the message becomes undeniable. You start seeing the blueprint of your actions, the habits that created the cycle, and the truths you were too blind or too stubborn to accept. Until that recognition happens, the pattern persists, and the consequences accumulate quietly, like pressure building behind a dam. Ignoring repeated lessons only makes the eventual consequences sharper and more unavoidable. Karma escalates gradually but purposefully, ensuring that what you refuse to face in small doses doesn't get ignored forever. It's not punishment for the sake of cruelty. It's persistence for the sake of clarity. The moment you finally acknowledge the truth, the pattern begins to dissolve. Repetition is no longer punishment, it becomes guidance. Karma keeps knocking until you answer, and the louder it has to knock, the longer you stayed silent. Life's repeated challenges are rarely random. They are reminders that ignoring the truth only makes it come back stronger. Number 14. Relief arrives only after acceptance. Relief doesn't come automatically, and it doesn't come simply because you've suffered long enough. The universe doesn't operate on pity or timing that feels convenient. It doesn't forgive ignorance or overlook mistakes simply because you've moved on or hoped they'd vanish. The only way the pressure eases is through true recognition. The full acceptance of what you've done, the patterns you've created, and the consequences you've caused. Until that happens, the lesson stays, persistent and unyielding, quietly shaping your circumstances until you can no longer ignore it. Acceptance isn't passive, it's active, conscious, and sometimes painful. It means acknowledging the ways you were wrong, admitting where your pride or arrogance blinded you, and seeing the ripple effects of your actions in stark clarity. Half-hearted recognition doesn't work. Pretending you understand when you really don't only prolongs the tension. The universe waits for the moment when you truly grasp the lesson in its entirety, when denial can no longer shield you. The relief that follows is not just the absence of punishment. It's a release of energy that has been holding you back. For every consequence you felt, every challenge that has circled back, and every discomfort that lingered, there is a liberation waiting on the other side of understanding. Once acceptance arrives, you notice the weight lifting, the patterns finally breaking, and the opportunities opening that were impossible to see before. The lesson has been learned, and with it comes clarity, growth, and a sense of balance restored. What makes this principle so crucial is that it teaches responsibility. You can't shortcut the process by blaming others, making excuses, or wishing the consequences away. Relief doesn't come from avoiding the truth, it comes from fully confronting it. And once you do, you not only gain freedom from the immediate situation, but also insight that helps prevent similar mistakes from repeating. The universe is patient, but it is not indifferent. Its hold is firm until you accept the lesson completely. And when that acceptance finally occurs, the release is profound. The tension, the repeated challenges, and the weight of karma all dissolve, leaving a clarity and peace that was impossible to achieve through avoidance or denial. True relief is earned, and it arrives only after acceptance. Karma is not a concept to be taken lightly or dismissed as mere superstition. It is precise, relentless, and patient, operating on a level far beyond human perception. Every action you take, no matter how small, sets ripples into motion, shaping your reality in ways you may never fully anticipate. The lessons it delivers are rarely immediate, often invisible, and always tailored to reveal the blind spots, pride, and ignorance you carry. From the silent withdrawal of protection to the repeated challenges that force recognition, karma is less about punishment and more about clarity, awareness, and transformation. It exposes the consequences of arrogance, pride, and indifference, turning the pain we've caused into mirrors that reflect our own vulnerabilities. It waits for the perfect timing, striking when resistance is weakest, and only releases its hold once the lesson has been fully understood. Through it, we are shown that fear is temporary, but awareness is permanent, that justice may be invisible but is never absent, and that nothing we ignore truly disappears. Humility becomes essential, repetition signals ignored truths, and acceptance is the only gateway to relief. Karma teaches us that life is far more interconnected and precise than we realize. Every action, choice, and word carries weight. The universe doesn't negotiate, it observes, waits, and delivers lessons in a way that cannot be avoided. But these lessons are not meant to break us, they are meant to awaken us, to show us the reality we often try to escape, and to guide us toward a clearer, more conscious way of living. Understanding karma is not about living in fear of what might come, but about cultivating awareness in every moment, taking responsibility for our actions, and embracing the lessons that life presents, no matter how uncomfortable they may be. When we finally accept the truths karma reveals, we step into a life of clarity, balance, and growth. The universe does not forgive ignorance, but it does reward understanding, and in that reward lies the true power of karma. Karma is relentless, but it is also fair. And in learning its ways, we learn the most important lesson of all, that our choices shape not just our present, but the entirety of our journey. If this message resonated with you, don't just scroll past. Take a moment to be part of the journey. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video that could change the way you see life and karma. If you found these insights powerful, like the video to let us know and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth today. We also want to hear from you. Comment below with your thoughts, experiences, or moments when karma showed up in your life. Every like, share, and comment helps us grow this community of awareness, reflection, and transformation. Join us, engage, and let's navigate the lessons of life together.